Assalamualaikum students. So this video is primarily to cover lab session 8 questions so that our chapter number 6 can be fully understood. And so once it is fully understood, then we can proceed on to the CEP as I told you earlier. Anyway, so here I am. This video is primarily for lab session 8 question number 1. The question reads as a vector is given by the variable name is v and the elements are 5, 17, -3, 8, 0, so on and so forth. You are to write a program as a script file in MATLAB, of course, that doubles the elements in V that are positive and are divisible by 3 or 5, sorry. So those elements in vector V which are positive and are either divisible by 3 or 5 needs to be doubled. So for example, let's take an example of the first element, which is 5. 5 is positive and it is also divisible by 5. It's not divisible by 3, but it is divisible by 5. So it fulfills the first criteria. As a result, in the new vector V, 5 will become 5 into 2, which is 10. Moving on, let's read the second criteria. Raises to the power of 3 those elements that are negative but greater than -5. So let's see. Now let's talk about the second element, 17. 17 does not fulfill the first criteria and neither does it fulfill the second criteria, because in the first criteria, see, it may be positive, but it's neither divisible by 3 or 5. So let's forget the first case. Let's move on to the second case. In the second case, it is not negative, so we should not read it further. Anyway, let's move on to the third element, which is -3. -3 is an element which is negative and it is also greater than -5. So this -3 will be raised to the power of 3, meaning it will be cubed. Fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a script file in front of you, and just for ease of understanding, I'm only going to cover the first 3 elements. The rest of course, you're going to add those elements and the program will remain unchanged. How? Let's see. So here I am. I have written down the first element in front of you. Sorry, 5, the second element, and the third element. So this is the untouched, the unmodified, the existing vector v. Based on the criteria, we need to modify this according to the two scenario. Now, the first scenario is if, go back, the first case is if it is positive and is either divisible by 3 or 5. So positivity check, if a number is positive, we all know that it should be greater than 0, right? Now, the second case is it should be and matlab you should be placing the logical and operator here. So you should be checking both the relations. It should be greater than 0 and as well as it should be either divisible by 3 or 5. Now, the divisibility check we all know is the remainder. So the if a number is giving the remainder equal to 0, obviously that number, that dividend is completely divisible by that divisor. So our dividend is in our case v, right? 5, then 17, then -3, right? And our divisor is at one time it is 3 and at other time it is 5. And make sure that you keep an or operator in between, because it says so in the question that it should be either divisible by 3 or, so the word here is or, logical or. So it is not, it does not say it should be divisible by 3 and 5. No, it can either be divisible by 3 or it can be divisible by 5. So here we are, I'm going to just write it down like this first, and then I'm going to show you that this or operator, logical or, will be placed in between the two remainder functions that I've used. Fine, one with respect to 3, one with respect to 5. Now here comes one more thing that we have already talked about the order of precedence. Once we introduced ourselves with all the set of operators, logical, arithmetic, and relational, we told you, I gave you a consolidated table in which it was clear that the relational operators, they observe higher order of precedence over logical and an or operator. Fine. So this is clear that this will be performed first. But what about this logical or logical and? So I want this to be read first and then the logical and should be read. So in that case, we all know that and operator has a higher order of precedence. So if I'm going to leave it as it is, this statement is going to be run first, and after the assessment either true or false, then 1 or 0, whatever the result is, will be then moved on further. So what I need to do is here is, because logical OR operator needs to be performed first, here I'm going to add a set of parentheses right here, right? Now, if that's the case, the question says that v should be, sorry, let's keep v for now. V should be doubled. So I'm using v status 2. So v, if it is fulfilling the first criteria, it should be doubled. Else if it's there is a second case. So second case has a specific conditional expression. So I cannot just leave it on else, because it's a very specific conditional expression that is specified within the question. So I need to add a conditional expression explicitly alongside else if. And what is that conditional expression? The elements that are negative and greater than -5. So the elements that are, sorry, negative and are, sorry, and are greater than -5. Fine. So they should be fulfilling both the criteria. Then again, I repeat, because relational operators observe a higher order precedence over logical and, so I do not need to include any set of parentheses here. This will be evaluated first, then this will be evaluated this second, and then the logical and operator will be evaluated. This is what we want. So if the v fulfills the second condition, in that case v should be raised to the power of 3. In other words, it should be cubed, right? Acha. Mind you, the second condition, the second element in our case, 17, is a special condition. 17 should remain unchanged. So when I'm not reassigning any value to the second element, obviously v will remain v, right? Now this is something that a kind of a program that I've just written in front of you. I'm going to run it and I'm going to show you the result. It's wrong, but let me show you what, because this is what we are going to start off with, and I'm going to explain it to you that why it is wrong. This program itself, why it is wrong. So let's try to run it, because I've not saved it. Let's try to run it and see the result. There's no result at all. Fine. The reason being is, whenever you write the if conditional statements, mind you, in if conditional statements, the variable v that you have used here, it should be a scalar value. Fine. On the other hand, v that we have assigned is in fact a vector, right? So here comes the most important thing. You want to run the if conditional statements on all the elements of v one by one. That means element by element. But with the relational operators here, for example, you cannot use the period operator. Fine. Remember, I told you in the class that there are times when there'll be, in order to solve a numerical, there'll be, in order to solve a question, you might have two methods. One is element wise operations, period operator. The other is for the loop for. So in some cases, obviously the two methods will be available, but in this case, like I already told you, period, yeah, element wise operations will not work. In that case, since you want if conditional statements to be run for each different value of v, element by element, first element, then second element, then third element, in that case you are going to write down for v, you are going to include v within the for loop. And like I told you, for every for, there has to be a corresponding end, so put an end for loop as well. In this case, since v has 3 elements in my case, obviously in your case, in the question, existing question, v has more than 3 elements, but nevertheless the program will remain the same. So in that case, this if conditional statement will be run first time in the first pass for v key value 5, in the second pass v key value 17, and in the third pass v key value -3. So let's try to run this and I will show you the result. So here we go. In the first pass, because v key value is 5, it fulfills this condition, and as a result v has been doubled. In the second pass, 17, it does not fulfill this condition. It also does not fulfill this condition. As a result, we do not get any answer for the second pass for the v key value 17. As for the v key value -3, it does not fulfill the first condition. It does fulfill the second condition. As a result, it has been cubed, and so the result is v equals -27.